Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. We are in Paul's office. Little change of scenery, obviously for the better. But yeah, I'm here with Coach Paul. We are doing check-ins. We did some posing today, and I figured while I'm here, why not, get him in this video and answer some questions that you guys have asked us, because why not? We get answers from a coach's perspective and from a client perspective.
Let's do it.
So without further ado, let's answer some questions. How old are you? I'm 24. How old are you?
Baby, 44. Old man.
Old man. How long did you lift before you started competing? Roughly around 4 to 5 years. So there was a foundation.
But she did have an athletic background before that. So I will say this, like track athletes, and you played tennis, you tend to have a foundation of lower body muscle.
Yes. I've heard it's easier for short people to gain versus taller people. Is it just how that looks though? Well, I think it is easier to fill out your frame as a smaller person because you are more compact. It's just like if you were to add, water to a shorter glass, you can see it fill up faster than if you were to add water to a taller glass.
Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think that shorter athletes tend to have shorter muscle bellies. Now they might be longer as far as where the attachments are, but I, as a 6'3" man, felt it took me a lot longer to kind of look like my frame was filled out. So yeah, whatever. But I can also reach things on the top shelf, so there's that.
For new competitors, how many shows should you plan a year, and how frequently do you compete, or should you compete? I think, one, if you're a new competitor, as Coach Paul has said a number of times, go to a show to even get an idea of what it is that you're getting yourself into. Because I think people see the beauty of what it is to be on stage and being lean and glammed up, but they don't understand that there's a whole process that goes into that, months in advance. Some people even years before they get on stage. So that's something to consider first and foremost. How many shows should you plan? I think do your first show and see how you feel about it. See if it's even something that you feel like you want to keep at. Some people, they do their first show like I did, and I fell in love with the sport and I ran with it. Some people do their first show, it was a good experience, but they never want to step on stage again.
Yeah, don't put pressure on yourself to do more than one show in your first competition season, but I would recommend having a second backup show within 2 or 3 weeks that allows you to go in, enjoy yourself, go out after the show, and then come in better for the second show. But mostly I try to get my athletes to stay within a 4 to 6 week window for all of our shows. Things change as you qualify for different levels, as you compete as an amateur and a pro, things change. So, but as a novice competitor, just pick a show that's local, low stress, attend it, and use that as your litmus test for if competing's for you. Yeah,
and then as far as frequency, there is a myth, and I think it still circulates, that you need to compete every year or every so often to stay relevant in judging in community, to get recognized and to do well and succeed in this sport, and that is just not the case. I can tell you firsthand that's not true, because I came out my first year competing, placed 4th at NPC Nationals after my 3rd show, and then took half the year off, came back and competed and won my first amateur show of the year overall, and then I won overall at the next national show, and then went on to win more shows. And I was a new competitor, and it was also in front of judges that I've never been in front of before. So as long as you bring something undeniable, that's what's going to get you to that next level. It's not going to be showing up all the time, because you can show up all the time and look like crap. And also listen to your body. You don't want to say you need to compete ever so often at the risk of your own health. I mean, the bottom line is trying to maintain stage lean for a long period of time is just not healthy. And I don't care who tells you otherwise, it is just not true. So you need to prioritize your health first.
Yeah, I think the idea that the judges need to see you a lot kind of became a popular thing, maybe amongst the bikini division specifically, because I compete in natural bodybuilding, and really it just matters what shows up on stage. And I think now we can clearly see that that's the case. They're judging the product that's on stage. So take as enough time off stage as you need to come back better.
How to create a full look for show day.
So let's define full, because I think this is another one of those things that we hear a judge tell people or a coach tell somebody.
You need
or
fuller glutes, fuller shoulders.
What does fuller mean? So fuller can mean two things. Fuller can mean that you are technically flat on show day. So muscle bellies are filled out by glycogen, sodium, and water. If you are not filled out on stage, the muscle can look smaller and therefore you look softer. So sometimes people will mean that. Sometimes judges or others will say you need to be fuller, meaning you need more muscle. Okay, so that can mean time off from the stage, but I'm gonna assume the first thing, and that is you were flat on stage. Filling out on stage is a process that requires, A, you are already stage lean going into peak week. We are not using the final week before the show to continue getting leaner. Then, my favorite approach, and I have a video on my channel called Linear Progressive Loading, Peak Week Strategy. It's basically where we continually add carbohydrates at an increasing amount each day of peak week at the same time that we're bringing cardio down, dropping cortisol, allowing the body to restore. Because during prep, you never get restored. You are always training, doing cardio on low calories. The week of the show, we want to make sure we're already in contest shape so that we can just reverse that trend, get you looking really good and really healthy. A lot of that's just going to come down to what your metabolism allows you to eat. But the idea is that we're restoring muscle fullness before show day and basically testing that as we go throughout the process.
Yep, exactly. And try not to, you also want to just be rested. It's like aside from, you know, bringing food up, you don't want to just be doing still hours of cardio. Like you said, you want to be ready. And if you're lifting, try not to, you know, you're not trying to go in and hit PRs in the gym. You're not trying to, because that's how you deplete those glycogen stores in your muscles, and that'll make you flat. So no matter how much you do decide to eat, it could not even matter because you might just be...
Yeah, and also remember that muscles are like 75-80% water. So if you're using these aggressive water loss techniques, well, fluid balance is not something that you can manipulate. Your body is going to determine that. So it's going to pull water from muscle bellies if you are dehydrated. So paying attention to actually being hydrated really helps too.
Yeah, we don't cut sodium and we don't cut water.
No, if anything, we increase the sodium.
Do you think waist trainers are helpful or are they just a fad right now? So, Paul, do you? Well, I think I've already heard your opinion on this one. I don't waist train. That's not something that I practice. I know that there are a lot of competitors that do, and they wear waist trainers religiously. I don't. The only thing that I use to help prevent my waist from hypertrophying, or maybe even atrophying just a little bit, is my weight belt. I get it from Chic Sports. I can try and link it. We'll see if I can figure that out. It's from Chic Sports. I like the way it fits. It helps kind of squeeze you in all the right places. And I wear it pretty tight while I work out so that I'm not really letting my waist expand much. I am contracting it and I am working it, and I try not to rely too much on pushing out against my belt when I work out. It's just a strategy. It's not, you know, something that you need to necessarily think about, really, I don't think, outside of physique sports. I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, I mean, most of the weight belts are used as a way to brace better so that you're actually safer, because the transverse abdominis, which runs just like a belt around our body, is on the inside. And if you put a belt on the outside of your body, you're basically kind of doubling the amount of safety that you have for your core and your lower back. And so during certain lifts, this is a good strategy because you don't want to be over fatigued. We're in the gym 5-6 days a week. We're holding weights, we're standing up. So the core, the entire core, lower back, rectus abdominis, these things can get destabilized. So there is value in wearing a belt during certain lifts. However, the idea of a waist trainer that you cinch the waist in, you know, best case scenario, it does nothing. Worst case scenario, you can actually prolapse organs and actually start to change the inner workings of your anatomy for the worse. So I'm not a fan of it. If someone wants to wear it just because they like the way it looks aesthetically, you know, I don't have an issue with that, but I don't like the idea of kind of requiring people to do it. I know some coaches do. Yeah. I don't think there's any value in that. You know, I've seen studies that Brett Contreras has done that showed squatting and deadlifting heavy does not impact the thickness of your waist, the width of your waist. The spinal erectors in the back might get thicker, but when we're talking about a bodybuilding stage, we're talking about the width of the waist on stage. That does not change, other than how your bone structure is set up and how much body fat you have. Okay, we have control over one of those things. We can get leaner, we can make the waist look smaller, but I'm not worried about a thick waist.
No, and I've also seen too that unless you wear it over like a span of, I think, years, you're not going to see any permanent changes in your structure. Once you take that off, depending on how tight you have it, your body's just going to go back to what it was before. Yep. So that's something to think about. And if you mean waist trainers, like the ones that make you sweat more, that's also not really going to, unless you are losing fat mass, not water. Water loss will bring your waistline down just a little bit, but it's just, you're gonna gain it right back.
It's temporary.
Yeah.
Just a fluid shift.
If you're trying to really bring your waistline down, you need to lose more body fat. That is what it is. And you also can't combat your genetic structure. That is, if you naturally have a wider rib cage.
Unless you want to do a Janet Jackson and pull out some ribs.
I was gonna say you could get surgery, but I don't know if I would want to do that.
Let's do one more.
Do we even have any more good ones? Oh, do you do the same set of exercise and just change the reps and sets? So I do the same exercises. Basically, I cycle them the same. Yeah. The only thing that's really changed is, volume.
Yeah, so what we're doing right now is a periodization setup where she does the same exercises twice a week in different rep ranges. Now, why? Well, because muscles don't care what exercises you do. It's about stimulating the muscle itself. So when we find what works, what targets the muscles, we stick with them, okay? Everyone's biomechanically a little bit more diverse. So when you find something that works for you, some people can squat and feel it in their quads, other people squat and feel it in their glutes. So when you're targeting a muscle, it comes down to where you feel it, how you're biomechanically doing it. And then the benefit of training a muscle twice a week is that you actually learn the skill of it. You actually get better at the movement itself. If we think of these patterns as skills, much like, say, someone trying to throw a football or a baseball, well, those are things you want to get good at through repetition. Doing it more frequently is better. So yeah, I'm a big fan of finding what muscle, what body parts are hit by certain movements and kind of using those movements as a basis for all of our compound movements, and then doing a little bit of isolation work after that. Yeah, just like pretty much anything, consistency is key. Yeah, my favorite saying is like, they're not inventing new exercises, okay? Like the same ones, tried and true, work. Yeah, exactly. And we don't really, there's no band workouts in my program, okay? I don't do like booty blasting band stuff. I mean, if anything, I might add some for a little extra. Looks good for the gram, but you know. I do compound movements. Compound movements meaning like squats, deadlifts, hip thrust, stuff like that. That's it. All right, y'all. That is all the questions for today. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Coach Paul, for doing this with me. And I'll see you guys in the next video.